Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Hey now, everybody, and welcome on in. This is episode 23 of the Stock Guy AL3X Show, the podcast covering topics around the world, business, news, markets, money, sports. If people are talking about it, so are we. The Stock Guy AL3X Show can be watched, listened, and viewed on YouTube and Spotify. Follow the show on all of the socials, guys. Follow us everywhere. LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Insta. Yo, bro, what's going on, man? Talk to me about your hand.
So there's a guy on the internet who talks about stocks and does a live stream, and he has a very well-known quote. And it says, if you learn from your mistakes, they're investments. So 2 weeks ago, I'm always building projects, right? Like I have to have something to do on the weekend if I get bored, right? So I give myself projects. So I was building something outside, and I was building a big metal shed for putting all the stuff that's dangerous because the kid can run around now. So I wanted to build a shed. So I got a big shed, built it, and right as I was finishing it, there was a box to put the last little piece on, and I was gonna go inside, to the other side of the yard to get the little razor blade to cut, but I was lazy, so I grabbed the handsaw. And I went on the tape. Well, the problem is that if you have a saw and you get tape, it can oftentimes get caught and move, right? So that's what happened. It sliced my thumb all the way halfway into the thumb. Now, this is healed after 2 weeks, but all the way into the inside of my thumb, blood everywhere, whatever. And I was lazy. So I said, you know what? I won't be lazy again. So this past weekend, I'm building a birdhouse, right? There's some extra wood I had left over from the wood that I repurposed and gave to the farm, the nonprofit farm or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to build a birdhouse because my daughter loves birds, loves animals. I'm going to build her birdhouse. So I started like cutting up wood and doing all this stuff, and I'm nailing it together. It looks ghetto as shit. I mean, it's the most degenerate, busted, scuffed looking box. I mean, it looks like the kind of box that you would like find in like an 18th century tropical island that somebody was trying to smuggle out gold or something. It's horrible, but it's the thought that counts. So I'm getting down, and I've got it all done, and I'm getting down to the last piece, the front piece, right? The front piece of wood that I've got to drill that hole so the birds can go in. So I've got my drill bit, and I'm drilling through it, but it's taking forever. So I'm looking around, I'm thinking to myself, you know, what would be quicker here? And I said, you know something? I've got this handheld chainsaw. And I said, if I just put the tip of it on there, it'll drill in. I could drill like a star pattern and then knock it out, and it's done. So I was like, all right, that's kind of stupid and lazy, but it might work. So let me go and get it. Well, do I want to make a little mini wooden horse to put it on there? No, I'll just put it on a piece of wood. I'll do it. We'll be done. Well, unfortunately, I'm drilling through, and there is a piece of a little nail or a screw in there I didn't know about. So the chain hits it, kicks up, comes right back down onto my knuckle and my finger. And yeah, that's what happened. And so
Can I show the picture? You sent me?
You can show it. I mean, I'll show you what it looks like live, but I didn't care really. I just I threw some turmeric on it to stop the bleeding, went back to finish the birdhouse. But after 30 minutes, my wife started freaking out, and she's like, you need to go to the hospital and get stitches. I said, what am I going to get stitches for? It's the knuckle. You can't get stitches on the knuckle like generally because you move it so much. I said I didn't cut the tendon because I can still move my finger just fine. I said I can see the bone, but you know it's very thin skin there. I said I'll just keep it tight and it'll be fine. No, she's freaking out. The mother-in-law's freaking out. So I go to the emergency room. I'm in there. They clean it off. The guy comes in. He's a doctor. Turns out he's an ex-Marine. So we end up laughing about it. And I made them all laugh. I had some funny one-liners in there. But that's what they did. They cleaned it up, and they said, yeah, there's not much we can do. And I said, I know. And so what he ended up doing was I said, I'll clean it out for you. So they gave me some tweezers, and I went inside and cleaned everything out of it and washed it out. And I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. So I just ended up taking the tweezers, grabbing the skin that was left over, pulling it back to cover the wound, and then wrapping it tight and creating a natural bandage. And it worked. And here we are. I cauterized the finger with a paper clip and a lighter. But here you go. There you go. It's much better looking, as you can see. The skin has grown back over the bone, so it looks like a natural bandage. Not too bad. And then the finger, not too bad. I cauterized where the blood was coming out, and so the nail is screwed. But yeah, that's.
Were you
about
wearing
it,
work
man.
gloves?
I was not wearing gloves, no, because I wasn't planning on using a chainsaw. Like I said, I was being lazy, and I learned, and I bought gloves. They arrived today. I've got chainsaw gloves, so this hopefully won't happen in the future.
What's the turmeric move on the open wound?
So I don't know much about it. I know turmeric has a lot of like anti-inflammatory properties, but like my house is just pure Indian right now. And one of the things they do over there is they throw turmeric on like wounds. And I asked them, I said, you guys say that for everything. Like if I get bit by a tiger or something and my entire calf is ripped off, what do you just dump turmeric on it? Like, I don't understand it. And even when I went into the emergency room, the doctor to me, he's like, what the fuck is on your hand? I said, turmeric. He goes, why? I said, I don't know, man. He's like, I've never heard of this. I said, but it looks like it clotted it pretty well. He's like, I guess, whatever.
It's like the cleaning version of Windex. Just put
I don't
Windex.
know, man.
Use Windex on all surfaces, or like just if there's something going on in your house, just get some WD-40 and put it on it. That sounds like what this is.
I don't know if it's an antiseptic or whatever. I do know it's anti-inflammatory, but I don't know. It didn't burn. It worked after I put peroxide on it. It's a week later. I finally took the bandages off. It's healing pretty good. But the best part, the funniest part is that it was kind of like an empty ER at like 5 p.m. on a Sunday. And like you could tell everybody was tired and wanted to go home. So I was like, let me lighten up the mood. So the doctor comes in and he's like, I was like, yeah. He's like, when's the last time you got a tetanus shot? I was like, when I was in the military. He's like, oh, how long ago was that? I said, 15 years ago. Jesus, fuck. And he goes, oh, military. I said, what branch? I said, Air Force. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. I said, why are you sorry? He's like, I was a Marine. I said, no, I'm sorry. He's like, whatever. And I was like, I'm sorry you couldn't qualify for another branch. And so I actually, when he stepped out, we were joking about it. And I yelled out real quick to one of the nurses. I said, do you guys make sure to lock up the crayons when he's on duty, right?
Oh my God.
So they were laughing about that. Then he comes in and he says, listen, I'm gonna give you some antibiotics. And I said, Doc, I said, whatever. I said, do you have topical? He goes, no, I'm gonna give you oral. And immediately I go, Doc, you're not on the boat anymore. It's fine. I'm good. You're an attractive man, but I'm not. And they all started busting out laughing and he didn't get it. He's like, I don't get what's so funny. He's like, I'm going to give you oral. And then he realized what he said. So that was a fun time. But yeah, here we are. And
that was a fun time.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Did he end up giving you oral?
No, yeah, I ended up getting. I got a prescription for oral, but I didn't fill it. But I am keeping it on the back in case an emergency happens.
The biggest story in the world right now that everybody is tracking: Biden blasts the radical Roe draft, warns other rights at risk. So, for those that haven't heard, the biggest thing in the world right now is the repeal of Roe versus Wade. What's been going on? This, according to cheddar.com, one of the sites that we use, one of the many sites that we use to cite sources and news stories, cheddar.com. President Joe Biden on Tuesday blasted a radical Supreme Court draft opinion that would throw out the landmark Roe v. Wade abortion rights ruling that has stood for a half century. The court cautioned no final decision had been made, but Biden warned that other privacy rights, including same-sex marriage and birth control, are at risk if the justices follow through. Chief Justice John Roberts said he had ordered an investigation into what he called the egregious breach of trust in leaking the draft document, which was dated to February. Opinions often change in ways big and small in the drafting process, and a final ruling has not been expected until the end of the court's term in late June or early July. So it says, across the nation, Americans grappled with what might come next. The Democratic-controlled Congress and White House both vowed to try to blunt the impact of such a ruling, but their prospects looked dim. A decision to overrule Roe would have sweeping ramifications, leading to abortion bans in roughly half the states, sparking new efforts in Democratic-leaning states to protect access to abortion and potentially reshaping the contours of this year's hotly contested midterm elections. The draft was published by the news outlet Politico late Monday. It's a big story, man. It's like, this is actually I know we talk about...
It's huge if true.
We talk about a lot of things, a lot of sort of financial stories, a lot of business stories, a lot of, nonsense stories. But this is one where this just kind of gets down to, basic human rights. And I know a lot of women across the country are feeling like they don't really have the autonomy to make decisions for themselves the way that they view men have for them. So that's obviously a big, huge, massive deal. Regardless of how you or I feel, I'm of the belief that, listen, the government shouldn't tell us what we can do with our body. That's kind of where I am. And that's not the government's decision to come out and say what I can do with my body. It honestly can be viewed as a super conservative take or a super liberal take. And the way,
it's so, the problem when these things happen is that everybody is so cut and dry, black and white, right? Like I talked about this, and I just dropped a YouTube video yesterday about how these decisions can affect the market and the economy, because I don't get into my personal political takes on my stream because it doesn't help anybody. But one thing I always look at is that I look at how both sides react to something and how they're so cut and dry, where, for example, you've got people on the right saying no abortions no matter what, right? And you got people on the left say her body, her choice, no matter what. And I always think to myself, well, how about we kind of, it's hard to legislate this, but how about we kind of like make an understanding here, right? Like, I don't think that, my personal opinion is that the first several weeks of the fertilization and the embryo, it's just a ball of cells. Like, I could literally scrape off the same shit off of my skin and have cells. Like, it's not a thing. But I also think that there's a limit of where something does actually become like at 8 months, unless you're gonna die. Like, I feel like there shouldn't be the ability to go like, you've had your chance and that's a human. Like, there's a lot there, right? And then a lot of people say, well, it's a woman's choice only. I agree when it comes to the body and safety, but then also there's an argument to be made out there that, hey, listen, that child, even though she's carrying it, is still 50%, it's still the male, the husband's, child. So does he have a say in it? There's so many different ways you could look at this, and it's so tough. And then some people say the government shouldn't have, any say in my body or what I do with it. And then I say, I agree. We should allow assisted suicides for people that are terminally ill and are in pain. But then people are like, no, you can't do that. Like, but what? So, what about the same people who will say, well, my body, my choice, and then shit on somebody who doesn't want a vaccine, right? And like I said, there's a different context there because that person could spread something. I understand that. I'm just saying it's so complicated, right? Like, it's so complicated. Like I get it. But no matter what my political leanings are, I am a big believer in, that we are in a country where people are free and have these abilities, and that there should be the ability for someone to find out that they're pregnant and if at a certain level be able to potentially terminate that pregnancy, right? Like, I don't think 7 months down the line, unless the mother's going to die, that should be an option. But I also think at 6 weeks, most women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks unless they were trying to get pregnant. So this is so crazy, and it's such a precedent. The one part of me that always struggles with these is that I am not a full-blown hardcore libertarian, right? Like, I think the Libertarian Party has a lot of problems, and I think that there is a need for government and all that. But at the same time, I'm a believer that everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too, depending on if it's if it's something that they agree with or disagree with. And I always think that states' rights are so huge, right? Like, our country was built on an experiment, and that is to have the people rule the government, not the government rule the people. And the way you do that is by not consolidating power. And that's why we had 50 individual states that made up a union, not one country, right? And so that was the idea. But then again, people will say, well, then what stops a state from going radical? Well, that's where you move with your feet. But then again, maybe you can't afford to do that. So it's never something easy. But here's what I will say personally, right? Personally. The idea of banning it across the board, I hate, because I don't like the idea of the government regulating people, okay? That I don't like. But the reason that I will stand with women as far as their body, their choice, and that whole thing, as long as there is some conditions, obviously, like I said, there's some weird shit that could happen that I hope doesn't happen. But the reason I want to stand with them is not because I'm one of these white knights online who go, it's her body, her choice, you don't get a say in that. There's a lot to that, but that's not the reasoning for me. The reasoning for me is that if you don't stand with a group of people when their rights are being messed with,
challenged,
even though if it doesn't affect you, then what happens when something comes to affect you? Who's going to stand with you?
Yeah, what's that adage that everyone always likes to share on social media? It's like, they came for this certain group of people and I did nothing.
And
they came for
quiet. And then then
exactly.
They came for me and there was no one to speak for me. It's the same kind of thing, right? Like I said, before anybody in the hate comments says Stocky's an anti-abortion person. No, I'm not. I've already explained how I personally feel, but my personal take should not be the law of the land, number one. And number two, the majority of people who do go for these things are not people that are murdering or killing a born or almost born fetus. Like it's people that are, made a mistake, or what if the baby, my wife, and okay, I'll give you, I don't want to get personal, but my wife and I had this conversation. What if we had the genetic test when the baby was just a small little peanut, whatever, and it turns out that it had a severe mental illness and Down syndrome, or it was missing, like it was all deformed and shit like that. Like, what do you do there?
And that sucks, man. That's such a sucky, shitty thing that you just described. And the question of what do you do there? And I'm just going to answer what I believe. What you do there is the best decision. You should be able to make the best decision that you and your wife can think of for both of you guys. And it's no one else's business, not mine, not the people that live next to you, not the government. It's not any of their business. It's your guys' decision, and you can choose to tell people. You can choose to not tell people. No one, I don't believe, should be meddling in the lives of others at that level. Like, there's a certain point in the and we very rarely get political, but this is just so innately a political discussion that we kind of have to. This is so foundationally, like human rights, and there becomes a point in the pregnancy. This is my belief that the fetus is too developed to be rightfully aborted. That's just my belief. However, you're talking about that early stage of pregnancy where it hasn't developed any organs.
First trimester, especially. I'm sorry, and as a man, I'm not a woman, so I'm not trying to speak for women, but what I'll say is, as somebody who understands anatomy and human beings and stuff like that, first trimester, in my opinion, is not what I would consider a grown human being. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, it's got all the fixins, it's got all the ingredients. It hasn't developed the organs yet. It hasn't developed, anything substantial yet. It's not living.
The brain's not big enough to have a fucking,
and it's not breathing. It's not doing anything like that. It's just,
the comments are going to be spicy on this one, right?
Of course, but like there's an early on period where I can at least understand enough that an abortion in the first 6 weeks is different than an abortion in month 7.
Yeah,
like that's a wildly different thing. And if you can't understand the nuance there, it's not even nuance. If you just can't understand the difference there, then that's a hard one to try to explain. I'm also no biologist.
Exactly, but here's the thing. That's why it's so radical. If I start talking about why I don't have a serious problem with abortions in the first trimester, and I talk to somebody on the right, they're going to be like, the moment of conception and God, there's a spirit there, and it's like, it's bad. But if I tell somebody on the left, hey, listen, at 6 months, listen, you've had your chance. They're going to say, you're a man, shut the fuck up. You can't say anything. Her body, her choice. And it's like, okay, but at what point is it no longer her choice? Is it up until the moment the baby comes out, or is there a limit?
There's a moment somewhere in the second trimester where it changes. Who is going
to be the one to legislate that? That's the problem, and that's why we keep going for this all or nothing bullshit on these laws.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's not been something, and I can disclose it's not been something I've ever had to encounter, so I don't know. When I'm pressed up against the wall, like, what am I going to do? I can't speak to that. I've never been in that situation where I've had to make that decision, but I know that there's a lot of people out there when it does, when push comes to shove, they'll make the decision to have the abortion. And the thing is that if you look at the data around it, the number of abortions doesn't change whenever we go through this type of
it's like drugs. It's not like if you legalize drugs, everyone's gonna go out and do fucking heroin and meth tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like it's done largely out of necessity. Now, is that a broad stroke? Is that a general statement? Of course. There's obviously fringe cases of rape cases, and it's whatever. There are the stories of you find out that the fetus has a high probability for a mental illness, and you got to then have a conversation about their quality of life if you are to actually go through the entirety of the pregnancy. And there's those are out there, man. There's all sorts of nuance.
It's never black and white. Never black and white.
Never black and white. And we're now in the situation though where my full position always aligns with the government should be telling us what we can do with our body. Like, insofar as it doesn't impact the other people in our world, like that's the reason why they say, like, don't do all these hardcore drugs, because all of a sudden you become like a menace to society. Like I get why there's rules on, you can't put meth in your body. I understand that. You know what I mean? But like
but why is that a problem?
Why is meth a problem?
Why is telling somebody they can't use methamphetamines okay?
you become more. Let me see if I can put this into words. If you do meth, you become more of a danger to society at that moment.
Okay,
in
if
time.
you drink, you become 100 times more dangerous to society.
Right, and we have laws around alcoholism. We have
laws around alcohol. I know a lot of people who have
not
drinking
alcoholism.
problems.
We have laws around alcohol consumption and your use of motor vehicles.
No. Now you're saying using that and something else. I'm talking about just ingesting it and utilizing it, right?
Yeah, I mean you're not.
Go
ahead.
It's fine if you drink and don't drive. It's fine if you smoke cigarettes and don't put it out on a kid, but don't smoke weed, don't do heroin, and don't do meth.
The weed conversation is.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's an all or nothing kind of thing. We're in this same situation that we were just talking about, okay, this is okay. Do you want to know why opium and heroin was made illegal? It used to be used all over America in the 1800s. Do you want to know why they made it illegal?
Why?
Because when we had all of the Chinese immigrants that were building the railroad, they brought opium with them and they would utilize it. And the American government and the railroad people didn't want them using opium because it made them docile and didn't work like that. And so they lobbied the government to make it illegal. That was easy. Marijuana became illegal, even though hemp was always used and cannabis was there because when slaves became freed and they were and black people started getting rights, stuff like that. They started growing the crop and people started using it and they were like, okay, we got to stop that. Like that's where it came from. I'm not trying to get political here or get into like a racism thing.
Listen, we're 27 minutes. We're 27 minutes in. I think it's a great conversation. We can say we're getting political. Like we can check that at the door.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not. In other words, no political. No, we're not. Here's the thing. Politics is when the difference between an opinion and being political. An opinion is what you think is right, wrong, and your opinion on it. Political is when you think it should be legislated, right, or unlegislated. So there's a difference, right? So I'm just giving you the information, the historical background. Now, the political part in me is, listen, all I know is that we made alcohol illegal in the 20s, and all it didn't stop people from drinking. It just created people doing underground drinking, more dangerous drinking, and it created the first organized crime in America. It
creates a dangerous culture in and around the consumption of that, and the crime that's followed with it.
I mean, think about how much money we waste on the war on drugs every year. That's obviously a failure. There's not a single study out there that shows it's done any positive. We've cost us $1 trillion at least.
Well, weed needs to be legal, bro. And then on top of that, weed needs to do it. Just broad stroke. I'm going to say this. This is a political statement. Weed just needs to be legalized. I mean, I don't understand why alcohol is legal but weed is illegal. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Then why not legalize prescription drugs too? Taking a Xanax or a Percocet and smoking weed, I mean, what's the difference?
I've smoked weed. I haven't done any of those things, and I can tell you, weed isn't as debilitating as alcohol.
Exactly, but here's the thing too. Everybody smokes weed, right? Like across the board, white, black, it doesn't matter. It's equal on usage percentage wise. So it's not about that. It's just, I'll stop here. But here's the thing is that, we're getting down to this thing, and we could go on this about guns. We could do this about religion. We could do this about everything. But since this is in the news, this is what we were talking. My personal take, and I haven't said this publicly before, but I'll do it here because it's the podcast. I am a believer that states should have rights bigger than the government, but at the same time, the governments are important with their laws because it does affect over the state stuff. So my thing is that I like the idea of Roe v. Wade. Okay, I think that it is awesome that we have the federal government gets out of the way, because we have the opposite going on with drugs, right? We have states legalizing drugs and the federal has it illegal, right? So there's a problem there. I don't want to see Roe v. Wade overturned. I don't. I think it's a very important legislation. I think it protects a lot of people, and I think it sets precedents for other rights and privacies and stuff like that. As far as individual states, wanting to pass their own laws regarding it, that's on the states, and that is on the, people that live there to vote for people that are doing the right thing and you know, not screwing people over. That's a tough one right there, because like I said, I don't want to push my personal beliefs on other people, even if it's against or for something. But I think Roe v. Wade is important. And
but I mean, even your personal beliefs align with Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade discusses the first abortion during the first trimester.
Understood, but I'm talking about the precedents that it set, not just for abortion, but also for privacy laws and government allowing different things in the body, and that includes, you know, gay marriage. That includes rights for people of minority. It sets precedent for a lot of things, and by overturning it, you're not just overturning the abortion, you're overturning a lot of other things that I think are important. A lot of people say, "Well, we're past all that shit." It doesn't matter if we're past all that shit. It's still there to remind the government. So that's what I would say, and. While all this is going on, I'm not obviously saying that, you know, whenever there's a big story, it's a cover for something else, but there's a lot of other shit going on behind the scenes that nobody's paying attention to or has forgotten about because of this. And there's some big shit that's going to affect you and me personally, every person, a lot more than this, even though this is big. That's going to affect them monetarily and as far as retirement and as far as how much they can afford and where they're going to live.
So we're staying on Cheddar. Cheddar posted another story on May 4th yesterday. Says Fed raises key interest rate, but skeptics question the impact on inflation. The U.S. Federal Reserve is bringing out the big guns, or at least the biggest guns it's willing to use at the moment, given widespread economic uncertainty. The central bank is raising its benchmark interest rate by 0.5% and starting the process of winding down its $9 trillion balance sheet in an effort to bring down rampant inflation. This will be the Federal Reserve's first 50 basis point hike since 2000. Usually the Fed sticks to 25-point moves in order to ease markets into tighter economic conditions, but increasing price pressures have spurred the bank to take more aggressive action. In theory, faster, higher rate hikes should trickle down to the rest of the economy more quickly, eventually leading businesses and consumers to cut their spending. But many economists are skeptical that the Fed is really in the driver's seat when it comes to inflation. Stocky, explain this like I'm 5. What's the ELI 5 of
I mean,
what's
I
going
do this
here?
on my stream. I've done a lot, and I also have a new YouTube video dropping this week over everything that they said and how it's going to affect it. But I'll put it this way. You know, we are at a point where we did too little too late, okay? And there were a lot of unprecedented things that a lot of people didn't know were coming. And we're at a point where inflation is going insane and the economy is slowing down. And
you're talking about kind of squarely that Q1 2020 moment where the pandemic has taken over and it stalls our economy to a halt. Are you talking about did too little too late?
No, that stalled our economy to a halt, but we printed our way out of it, right? We dropped interest rates to zero. We made money very cheap. Cheap money means that, you know, you get to, you know, have more people make larger purchases because they can afford to finance them because they don't have to pay as much in interest. And now housing starts to go up.
Or companies can take loans and they can start employing
they
people.
Can hire people and they can expand. The stock market goes. People are getting stimulus checks. They're buying stuff. They're doing stuff online. Peloton and Amazon and all these companies that are online and doing great. Everything's good. Then the checks stop. And then inflation starts kicking up because we have supply chain issues, right? And so inflation starts increasing, but it's okay. We were down at 1%. We need to be at 2.5% to be healthy. And then we're at 2%. Then we're at 3%. We're like, oh shit, that's fine. Inflation's good as long as employment's going up, because if inflation's up, that means people are spending and employment's going up, then people are making more money and they're covering for that. It's fine. It'll cool itself off. But then you get a little bit of a problem. Inflation keeps going up. And rates are down at zero, so people are still lending out and prices are still going up. And now more supply chains are happening. And then you've got more shortages everywhere. And it's like, oh shit. And now it's at 5%, 6%, 7%. And now you're like, oh shit, you need to pull the brakes right now and you need to raise rates. But we can't raise rates until we have full employment. So we need to have more companies expanding and more hiring, whatever. Then you get to 8%. And now you're like, oh shit. Now we need to raise it, but we have to do it in a shorter time frame. So everybody was expecting to have a 50 basis point increase, which has happened. And then now the expectations are that we could see a 75 basis point, and it's getting crazy. But here's the issue. Here's the big problem, okay? And I'm going to TLDR it. It's okay to have inflation go if GDP is growing. Then you throw the brakes on the money, right? The Federal Reserve is in charge of this. They can charge demand, right? Because demand. How do you get demand on things? It's not just what people want; it's what they can afford. And if it's cheaper to have money, people can afford more things. And if it's more expensive to have money, less buying happens, right? So if mortgage rates are high, less houses buy. If APR is higher, cars stop being bought. People stop being stuff. They don't have as much money. So that's the demand pie. But the Fed can't touch supply because that's world events. So here's the problem. If you cut rates, you cut money. And if you cut the amount of money, you slow down the economy, which is okay if you got the economy rolling and inflation's rolling. It's fine. Just pull back. It'll slow down the economy for a little bit, but it gets inflation under and then everything settles and goes forward. But here's the problem. This past quarter, we went from a 6.9% quarterly growth in GDP to an expectation of a 1.1% GDP growth. That's okay. It's been hot. We need to cool down. But instead, we saw a negative 1.4% GDP come in last quarter. What is one of the definitions of a recession? 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP. So here's the thing. You hit the brakes on inflation, it's going to slow the economy down, but if the economy is already going backwards, now it's a shit show. And you might say to yourself, but that's okay. We'll just get our supply and demand back in line. We'll be fine. We got a war going on in the EU. The EU is about to cut off oil from Russia, finally deciding to take a stand. Oil prices could see $150 a barrel this summer, which then impacts everything around you. Because even if you're like, I drive a Prius, I drive a Tesla, I don't deal with oil. Let me tell you something, shithead. Do you know how much oil it takes to dig out the material for those for that EV car? Do you know how much oil it takes to ship it, to build it, to send it to you, to build the electric car things, the plastic that's in it, the plastic you use at home, the tires, everything has oil in it. Okay, you travel somewhere, you do something, there's oil. Okay, it's part of it, and that is going to drive more inflation. And China's locking down again. I should send you the picture of the ships sitting off the coast of China right now that are just waiting to get filled up, because we normally have a nice little supply chain. Ships get filled up in China, they come dump in America, and they go back with materials, and it's back and forth and back and forth. But COVID, we saw a shutdown, and then all of a sudden it dried up on this side while everybody was waiting to get filled on this side. So there's no supply and the prices go up. Then these all get filled up at once, go here. Now we can't stock it fast enough. And so then there's a glut, and now we're back there again. It's just thousands of ship with China shut down, meaning we're about to run out of more shit, meaning prices are about to go back up or continue to stay high. And China's shut down right now, and rates are going up. So we are I'm not trying to be fudding out there, but we're at a very close. This is what separates us between a recession and stagflation. At this point, there's no such thing as a soft landing.
At this point, it is
recession or stagflation.
At this point, it is stagflation. We're experiencing
because they're still bullshitting us that employment rates are really high.
So, according to BusinessInsider.com, it says job openings hit a record high March as businesses still struggle to find workers. The article talks the U.S. labor market remained historically imbalanced through March as employees struggled to match a limited number of available workers with outsized job openings. The number of job openings totaled a record 11.5 million at the end of March, according to Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, or JOLTS, data published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics on Wednesday. That's up from 11.3 million seen at the end of February. Economists surveyed by Bloomberg expected openings to decline to 11 million through the month. And here's the chart, obviously, where it really juts up right here, starting.
LDR for you real quick on this, because we're so bad on time today. Employment matters, right? They need a full employment. But here's the thing. Number one, we've talked about it before. Unemployment only counts people actively looking for work. Number two, Great Resignation is not slowing down. We saw 4.5 million people resign last month. Now, granted, some of those people are going to other jobs, but that now puts 10 months in a row of over 4 million people a month leaving their jobs. Number two, how do I know that it's not getting fully, people are going from job to job? Why? Because we saw job openings actually increase from 11.3 million to 11.5 million. Not to mention how many of these jobs that people are in right now are what I call fake jobs. And what I mean by fake jobs is back to what we started this conversation with. Interest rates are low. Businesses have a bunch of cheap money. They use it to acquire. They use it to expand. They use it to hire people. They do all that. And guess what's happening right now? And this is our next story, but I'll just talk about it now. And that is these companies are starting to lay off. Zoom laid off. A bunch of tech companies are laying off. Robinhood laid off 9%. I played stock the other day. They announced during their earnings call that they're cutting 75% of their workforce. It's just the beginning. Airbnb announced before their earnings this week that they were going going 100% remote for their employees. Well, guess what? That maybe sound good, but what about the janitors and the cleaning people and the electricians and the work at IT people there and the car service people and the valet people and the elevator people and the secretaries and stuff? They're all going to lose their job too. So this is not, we're not in a good place. Now, we're not at stagflation. And that's why we're saying, okay, hey, maybe we'll just hit the brakes on this and move us into a recession, because at this point, we don't have a choice. It's either going to be recession or stagflation. And the lesser of two evils in this point is recession. So let's fucking grind the halt on inflation, move into a recession, reset, and move forward. But we still don't have all of the ability to stop the supply side problem. So we may not be able to stop inflation, and stagflation may be the only thing we can go. And then if that is, we are in for a shit show. So be careful out there, guys. The best thing you can do right now, if you're listening to this and you don't watch my show, don't worry about the stock market. Don't worry about any of that. Investments. Listen, get your debt under control right now. If you haven't refinanced, you've already missed the boat, but you may be able to still do better than you will later on. But pay your goddamn debt down, okay? Throw some extra money at your mortgage payment every month. Throw some extra money at the premium on your student loan. Throw some extra money at your car payment. Get those premiums down, because you no matter what happens with the economy, you're still going to owe that money. And if things get tough, you want to make sure that you can survive it.
Just down in your neck of the woods, Dave Chappelle tackled on stage at Hollywood Bowl by audience member. Wasn't that down in Miami?
I don't fucking know, man. I don't.
Oh no, it was not. It was in LA. I thought it was down at for some reason I thought it was at the Hard Rock. I don't know. I was traveling a lot earlier this week. For some reason I saw a report that it was in Miami. It wasn't. This was in LA. Dave Chappelle was tackled on stage by an audience member Tuesday night during his live show at the Hollywood Bowl. The comic 48 was performing as part of the Netflix Is a Joke festival when the mayhem unfolded around 10:45 p.m. toward the end of the stand-up show. Shocking footage shows Chappelle standing on stage as an audience member charges and slams him to the ground. Seconds later, the attacker was tackled to the ground by security. LAPD responded to the chaos. Moments after the unprovoked tackle, comedy guest Chris Rock came on stage and gave Chappelle a hug before saying, "Will, was that you?" Obviously referring to the moment from the Oscars. Did you see the video of it?
I did. Like yesterday, I saw somebody get tackled. His security team fucked that dude up. That dude's gonna get paid,
dude. You think so?
I don't know all the details, but from what I heard, the guy ended up having some broken bones. And
broken bones. Did you see the picture of the guy?
I haven't seen any of this. I'm way behind on it.
Hold on. Hold for a picture, man. I got to pull this thing up. But what's the precedent there? This guy charged and assaulted Dave Chappelle. There's a defense case, obviously, that says...
No, there's only a defense case at the time of the assault. Once the guy's running away, he's no longer a threat. At that point, that would be on the people that chased after and attacked him. If they detained him and they can prove that while they were detaining him, he had a weapon and they defend himself, that's one thing. But they're not even cops. Their job is to just hold him down until the cops get there. But it's just like with anything of self-defense. You can defend yourself at the time of the attack, but once the person's fleeing, you can't hurt them. You can't attack them.
Look at the picture I just DM'd you. I know you can't see what I got pulled up here. Look at what I just DM'd you. This is what they did to this guy. This I don't even understand really what's happening here to his arm. To his right arm. They broke that thing.
I don't know if that's broken or he's just trying to move it because he's handcuffed, but this dude's going to get paid. This dude's going to get paid a lot of money. I mean, even if he gets hit with an assault charge, which they'll probably, and I mean, the cops didn't, if it wasn't the cops that did this, then the DA probably won't drop it if Dave Chappelle decides to do it. But Dave Chappelle's most likely not going to press charges. If it turns out that it was his security detail team that did this, he's not going to do charges in the hopes that he can settle with this guy out of court. Otherwise, this guy's going to get paid a lot of money, because even if he assaulted him and then ran off and then was attacked by the security team and this was the aftermath, this guy is going to get paid a lot of money. And you know what? Even if it doesn't go to court, they'll probably pay him off. They'll settle out of court because they don't want to drag through the court process for this because of the bad publicity.
That's so effed up, bro. This dude takes a cheap shot at Dave Chappelle and then gets an ass whooping. You deserve that ass whooping. Like,
you deserve it, but at the same time, okay, you asked me about is it allowed or not? Okay.
Yeah,
it's like
no, listen, I understand.
Who like to egg on fucking celebrities for them to do something so they can sue them.
No, that's different though. Egging them on with their words and just kind of chastising a little bit.
That's what their intention is to get something that they could get. This
Listen,
guy, I don't know why
you take a cheap shot at an entertainer that's on stage doing their job, and you get your ass beat. That right there you go. You're square. Like there shouldn't be anything legal about the matter after the fact. I'm not saying
it wasn't right. I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying. You're just describing the recourse. I definitely get that.
My thing is that if I attack you and I get my ass beat, then you know what? I got what I deserved.
That's what I'm talking about.
But if I can still get a couple $1 million out of it, might as well do it too. We're already squared. Now I'm going to get some money. You know, I mean, the kind of person who goes on a stage and attacks a comedian is probably the type of guy who would be more than happy to try to get some money.
That person's definitely going to try to take advantage of the situation and play the victim card. But my point is just more larger, saying, bro, you go and you attack a dude and then you get your ass beat. Boom. You walk away and say, man, I got some bumps and bruises and I got what was coming to me. And the guy that you attack needs to just say, boom, we got the best of that one. We're walking away. And that's it. If at that point you want to then, if you're the guy that got attacked and you want to make a case that, like, I don't know, restraining order case, so that way you don't ever have to deal with that person ever again. Yeah, I understand that. Like, definitely say, you know, this person's banned for being around me. But bro, you attack someone and then you get your ass beat. That right there, that's karma. That's the universe. It dealt with the situation. That was the justice. And then it will become that will become a sad story if now Dave Chappelle owes this guy money, or Dave Chappelle's company or the security detail or whatever owes this guy money. That's a ridiculous outcome for that. And I know you agree with me. You're just describing the recourse, which is
I'm just saying what'll happen because they beat his ass afterwards, so that he has a case now. So whether that was his intention or not, that he has that case to go for. So you know, it is what it is, but that is it. Or maybe he's just pissed off that somebody found out some information from him and wanted to divert attention, because, you know, that's the best thing to do. Like, I don't know, we might see some Republican, or even Democratic Congress people and politicians start doing some PR moves, because a little bit of a data leak going out.
Definitely a little bit of a data leak. That seems to be the case going around right now. Also, not even just a data leak. There's companies just outright selling information, something that we already know exists. But this story hit the Wall Street Journal, y'all. Story on the app GRINDR. It says GRINDR user data was sold through ad networks. The gay dating app's user locations were collected and sold since at least 2017. GRINDR 2 years ago curtailed the data it shares with advertising partners. I also don't have full access to this article. It's Wall Street Journal, but it says the precise movements of millions of users of the gay dating app GRINDR were collected from a digital advertising network and made available for sale, according to people familiar with the matter. Bro, like, no shit. Like, that's what...
Yeah, but here's what they did. They not only found out and collected the data of who you matched with, but they also were collecting data of your profile and the phone of the person you matched with profile when they got together, right? Like when they were within a certain distance of each other, knowing that location, right? So whether it was out to dinner, whether it was out at a movie or in a bathroom of some seedy fucking motel, right? And then also tracked where you lived when you went back. So here's the thing. I don't know what part of that data they're selling, but they have all of it. So they'll know if you were on it, where you were, where you met up, who you met up with, where you live. Did you guys go back together to your house or whatever? Like, this is, you know, this is why it's so nice that Apple and Google, I shouldn't say so nice, because it's not like they don't collect the data at all, but they're allowing out of data tracking and location tracking, which is only a small thing. It's still there. But, you know, everyone knows where you are, right? Like for example, people are always like, oh man, you know, whatever. And it was so much easier. I'm so happy that when I was a kid, I didn't have, you know, cameras everywhere and video cameras and tracking and stuff like that, because I did a lot of dumb shit that could have got me in a lot of trouble. Now, I didn't do anything bad or anything like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that was the kind of thing. But nowadays, everything, you know, we feel like we're protected because it doesn't look like the movies we saw where it's like there's drones in the sky watching us and cameras on every street. Well, it is in fucking London. You guys, those guys are under a police state, but it's not there. So we feel like, oh, it's not like we saw in the movie, so we're fine. But no, everything is being tracked. What you watch, where you go, how you interact, and whether it's to sell the data to other businesses or it's to track you for criminal reasons, it doesn't matter. You are being tracked. And with the Patriot Act and NDAA, that information can be subpoenaed and the government can take it at any time.
I just feel like I say no shit, because it's like, yeah, you're living on the grid. Like the entire premise, the evaluation of these companies pre-revenue with all the investment that they bring in, all these different, startup companies that launch a successful new social platform, the entire half of the premise is that you get to sell the user information. Like that's the value. That's half the value of these companies. There's kind of only two real sources of value, unless it's a subscriber-based platform where the user has to pay to access. If it's not a pay to access platform, then the two sources of value are A, the value of the information that you get to sell on the user, and B, your ability to advertise to that user and attract brands and sponsors to the platform. Like that's kind of the only two ways to monetize if you're not monetizing directly from the user itself. So like, I don't know. I just feel like if I'm using an app, if I'm using Twitter, like Twitter is using my data and all of my information to the full financial and economic might that they can. They're going to sell that and do everything they can with that data. And I feel like people, when I talk to them, don't have that full understanding or appreciation. And they're like, oh, I don't want this company to have my information. I don't want this company to have that information. Like, bro, you got an iPhone. It's like the most powerful supercomputer that this world has ever seen, made microscopic basically relative to other computers, and placed on your person at all points in time with a microphone and a camera that can always be collecting information with a GPS tracker in there. Like, yeah, no shit. It's got all your info. Like, I don't know. To me, this doesn't seem like a story, but Wall Street Journal is making it sound like it is, and other people get shocked at this idea.
I think it's a story because because of what they said and the idea that that so many people like hide that they are, live that lifestyle, and so it's gonna bring a lot of clickbait because it's like one of those things like, oh my God, is somebody who's in a happy marriage or a pretend marriage gonna get busted, or maybe somebody out there is on the app and it's gonna it drives clicks, and it's pretty crazy. Especially with all the leaks of stuff that's been going on and people that are worried, and like the John Oliver thing that just happened recently with his stories.
If the data and all that information wasn't valuable and the company couldn't sell it, then the app wouldn't exist. Like it would potentially in a form where you would have to pay to use it, or
there's nothing free in this world. Like these people that are like, oh well, this app gives me free cash back for using it. No. They're getting money by selling your data. That's part of how it is. There is no such thing as free.
Have you heard Bill Burr? Have you heard Bill Burr say when he's at the grocery store and the cashier says, "Oh, do you want to join our loyalty program? Like you can save this, that, and the other." And Bill Burr's like, "No, I don't want to join it." And she's like, "Well, you'll save money." And Bill's like, "Listen, I don't know what you're up to, but I know you don't want to make less money, so I'm not signing up for your shit." Like that's kind of like, we all know that everybody's out there, but at the same time, man, like, if you want to use these apps, like if you want these social utilities like this, you got to just understand that the value in it for them is they have to make money still. And they're going to do that by selling your data. Would you rather have, the arms and the might of capitalism, which is basically just being wielded by all of these companies that all they're trying to do is make a buck? Or would you rather have the government control everything and where they would then just propagandize and kind of try to
You're starting to sound like a fucking crypto bro, dude.
All I'm saying is that no one should be shocked, bro.
Like the fucking
no one should be shocked that a company wants to sell your data. Like that's the value in it for them. Like you're in it because, like, if you're on Grindr, you're in it because you want to, find someone. Like that's the value in it for you.
You want to fuck. That's what you want to do. You don't want to find somebody.
I don't know, bro. I'm assuming there's probably a lot of people on there that just want to find someone. Whatever the reason is, they want to find a long-term partner.
Really, that's what they want to get. That's like saying everybody on Tinder is just a new version of Christian Mingle. Get the fuck out of here.
Finding someone just to hook up with them is a reason to just find someone. There's also people that
fine, but I'm saying let's call it what it is.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm saying you're trying to find someone.
Since we're out of time, we're not going to get to a new Central African country no one's ever heard of making Bitcoin their legal tender, the second country to do so after El Salvador. Fun fact: El Salvador made it legal and required businesses to accept it as a currency, but no one's utilizing it because in the beginning they took all their money and transferred it to Bitcoin, and then you have to sell it to get back to your currency. But if a business is required to take Bitcoin, the business is probably going to jack up prices because guess what? Since they did that, Bitcoin's down about 40% in value. Imagine if your currency was down 40% in the last 6 months.
So guys, what Stocky's getting at is that there's an article on Cheddar says Central African Republic makes Bitcoin legal tender despite El Salvador's failures. So the Central African Republic, one of the poorest, least connected nations in the world, is getting on the Bitcoin bandwagon despite growing evidence that state-led crypto adoption is easier said than done. The war-torn country is only the second national government after El Salvador to pass a law designating Bitcoin as a legal tender alongside its dominant fiat currency. So yeah, I mean, listen, adoption of this thing is more and more every day. I saw an interesting tweet that said, "Hey, why does everyone say that the value of Bitcoin is long-term value of Bitcoin?" We talked about this before, and I've even said it. But this guy on Twitter said, "Why does everyone say that the legal or the long-term value of Bitcoin? Why is it tied to your ability to buy a coffee with Bitcoin when gold is not used as a form of currency anywhere, but it's still a store of value?" That is something to think about. Obviously, there's an industrial.
No, I think that's a bad argument right now because number one, we have historical precedents. Number two, gold has actual usage. Number three, it's a physical commodity and not just a thing on the blockchain. So I think that, but I think we're going to be moving away from gold too. I think as the new generations get, move on and people don't look at gold the way they used to, because nobody at one point there won't be anybody alive who was ever alive when gold was the dollar was backed by gold. And so I think there'll be a point where gold maybe moves away as a reserve for currencies or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully people in Amazon warehouses find some gold because they're going to need it. The big stories that we're going to miss today are that the second Amazon warehouse in Staten Island, a smaller one, rejected the union vote after the big one actually did go. This is going to set precedent. Starbucks is having unions spread like wildfire. Speaking of which, another story we're not going to get to today, but I'll hit the highlight of it, is that Amazon accounts for over 60% of all warehouse accidents in America. That's a big number. And Amazon said, you know something? We need to do something about it. And you know what they did? They decided that they were going to take billions of dollars and they were going to, start paying their employees more. They were going to start fixing warehouses, and they were going to up the medical coverage and spend billions of dollars to invest into safety equipment. I'm full of shit. That's not what they did. They said, fuck y'all, we're buying robots. And that's what they're doing. They said, listen, if it's a robot, it can't complain. It can't get tired. It doesn't need a pee break. I don't have to pay it medical insurance. And if it's injured, we fix it and don't bitch. So that's on there. Menthol cigarettes being banned. 36% of all smokers in America smoke menthol. The FDA is looking to ban menthols. Some people are saying that this is racially targeted, since the vast majority of menthol smokers are African American or minorities. So we'll see how that plays out. Student loan forgiveness. Sorry, guys, you're not getting your loans forgived. Even if they did $10,000 for every single person, it would crash the economy, especially right now. Like if there was ever a chance that they were going to do any kind of loan forgiveness at a large scale, it's not now. Not with the GDP.
The last story that we definitely need to get to and we can't fly over is, because we can talk about it in like 2 minutes, is Snapchat's investment into a flying camera. Because, oh my God, look at this thing. I'm going to play a video here on that everyone gets to see. This right here, what you guys are seeing on the screen, this is a product that Snapchat has developed. This is the flying camera that they're hoping gets adopted and just takes pictures of your life, I guess. Look at this thing. It's just flying. It's called Pixie, right? This Snapchat camera. What do you know about this?
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. So this is something that I was looking at the other day when I was looking at the stock. It's a small little drone that follows your phone because of you and your phone, because it's attached to it. And it takes up to 1,000 pictures and 100 hours of video or something like that. And it just basically, it's basically the new selfie stick, but it flies around above you. It's small enough that it will come and land in your hand and you can fit it in your pocket. And so what's going to happen now is you remember when we used to hate everyone had a selfie stick for about 2 years?
Yeah.
Everybody and their brother had a fucking selfie stick. They were just walking around the parks and everybody had a selfie stick doing that. This is the new selfie stick, but it's going to be everyone having a little fucking mini drone above them. And you know what's going to happen? Not only is it going to be filming the craziest shit, right? Like people are going to be like, oh, let me just film myself just picking, fights with people for content. But everyone's going to have little drones flying around the air. It's going to be a disaster. They're going to be falling out of the air. People are going to get hurt. People are going to be pissed off. People are going to be mad, whatever like that. That's fine. But then eventually this is how we get overtaken. Somehow there will be a hack into these drones. These drones will get armed and they will enslave us, and we will be slaves to handheld drones.
What I think the real adoption of this is, because as much as I want to go forward into that sci-fi sort of tangent you just developed, we don't have enough time. But I think the real potential...
I stopped before I blacked out. I saw myself what was about to happen.
Before the real adoption of this occurs, I feel like they just need to say, hey, there's this flying tech. for cameras. Let's figure out an attachment to our phones because no one wants another device, right? No one wants a second, third, fourth device. The only other device that we've really seen have long-term legs in the market is e-readers, and that's because they have some sort of different screen technology that make it easier on people's eyes to read. And people are already carrying books. So I think besides e-readers, everybody just wants everything into their phone. So find a little attachment that makes your phone a drone, and like that, I could see that, having some legs here. But this right here, this is just cool. Snap takes another stab at hardware with a selfie drone called Pixie. It's available for $230 USD in the US and France starting on Thursday. So you guys want a little drone version of a selfie stick and you want Snap or whatever, you're still using Snapchat. Dude, do you even still use Snapchat? I don't use Snapchat ever.
I've never had Snapchat.
Yeah, it was a thing in college for me, and then I stopped using it, and then now I don't know who uses Snapchat. But either way, let's move it along, guys. This was a big, huge, massive hour. We just flew by because, bro, this is probably the fastest hour that we've ever had. We spent a lot of time talking about.
Because we spent all of it on a very,
it needed though. We needed. I mean, it's a big deal.
I think it's good that we talked about it. I think, we'll probably get called fucking pigs or stupid centralists or whatever, but I feel like we put it on the table. I feel like our takes on it were pretty rational for anyone. So there was a lot there. It's too bad we didn't get to the NFL draft, but it's probably good. If
no one watched it, no one wants to hear about it. The story is that
it was the lowest. I mean, of course it was. There was no big names going. Yeah. Like the biggest thing was going to be which one of these okay defensive ends are going to make it. Like as number one. Like that was.
Think about it though as a byproduct. Think about the economy of what just happened here with the NFL draft. So, guys, the story is that the NFL draft had its television viewership plummet this year. But think about where we are. These are the players that were drafted this year that you would have seen really like bloom and become big names during that 2020 season. But we were kind of robbed of a real showcase 2020 season. The whole year of 2020 was kind of warped. So a lot of these guys didn't have a chance.
Why does it feel like all the first round people this year would be second round people in other years?
About half there's really only about 14 players in the NFL draft this year that were worth it from a first round perspective. Everyone else was kind of like a second round pick.
Dude, that linebacker we got that we traded up for in the first round, I watched his story. Although that reporter was insane. Like not only did he pick up Roger Goodell, which was awesome, but then the reporter was like, "Congrats on getting drafted. What do you think about your two friends that were murdered? Like what the fuck, lady?" I watched his story and from Utah, and they need a good player on their defense with something like that. I hope that he doesn't get. I hope that he's able to improve the Jaguars rather than the Jaguars ruining him.
You talking about Trayvon Walker? No, talking about the number one overall pick?
No. The guy that we traded up to that was supposed to be a top 15 pick that ended up falling, and they got him. They traded him up for in the first round. The linebacker.
Yeah.
From Utah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Like his friend, the running back, was a rookie and broke all kinds of record, and then was murdered. And then
I forgot
another one of his friends on the team, in honor of that guy, took his number, and then he was murdered the next year. And then this guy had an amazing junior season, decided to come back and just went nuts and ended up leading Utah to the first ever Pac-12 championship. Crazy story I watched, and the Jags picked him up. Seems like a really nice guy, good leader, good guy. Hoping that works out. But they decided that they're going to run a 1-5-5 defense next year, so that'll be fun.
1-5-5, one down lineman.
1-6-4, because they just drafted a bunch of linebackers, man.
They're probably not running a 1-6-4.
They ended up getting a decent center, I guess. Like
if you would have told me that they were going to run a 1-6-4 and Urban Meyer was still your coach, I would actually somewhat believe you. But obviously, the Jaguars are going to be a little bit better this year. We can expect that. For those that are listening and have made it all the way through, reminder that this weekend is Mother's Day. Get your mother a gift. Get her something. You need to lock down something awesome for your mom because it's Mother's Day, and do not.
Don't get her anything. Fuck that. Don't get her anything. Or if you do get her anything, that's not that's an excuse. Here's what you do: you take your mom out for a mother-son or mother-daughter date, and you get a lunch. You go out to a park or something like that, or somewhere her favorite place. You sit down. You have a nice little picnic, and you just reminisce about good times. You just give her your full attention and talk about good memories from when you were a kid and things that happened, and remind her all the good things she did and how it impacted you and how much you love her, how much you've meant to her. That is 100 times better than some fucking flowers, okay?
All right, so Stocky's Random Rant on the day is also Father's Day. and gifts. What's good, Stocky? Father's Day, a month
All right,
early?
here's what I'm going to say about Father's Day. Okay, first of all, nobody gives a shit about Father's Day. The only reason they gave Father's Day out there is because a bunch of guys who the same people probably trying to get rid of abortion were like, hey, what the fuck? Why don't we get a holiday? And I'm fine with it. I've
They
already
probably
had
sit
the
down
rant.
while they pee.
I've already fucking pussies. But the thing is that I've already had the rant about, listen, just do your job as a father, but also, I don't want to take away from dads doing their job because, in a lot of places, dads, fathers bring in the money and mothers, take care of the home. But that's not the way it is all the time now. But there's a lot of single fathers. There's a lot of single mothers. There's a lot of parents that do really good right here. But here's the thing about Father's Day. Here's my rant. Can we stop with the get dad a fucking tie or a pen? Why is it that on Mother's Day, they get the fucking spa day and the flowers and the chocolates and the coupon book and all that shit? But no, my ass, who works 12 hours a day, 7 fucking days a week and puts a roof over their head and does all this shit, also cleaning and doing this and building shit like that. Why is my fucking Father's Day present a goddamn tie? I don't wear fucking ties, okay? And the tie you got me is shit, okay? Oh, I got a new pair of funky socks. I'm in Florida. I don't wear socks, okay? Can we put maybe half the fucking effort into Father's Day gifts as we do into Mother's Day gifts? No offense, ladies. This isn't on you. Listen, you slay it, queen. Get what you deserve. But why am I left out to dry? Either fucking give it to me, give me a good shit, put some thought into it, or just get rid of the holiday. Do you really want to know what we want? Do you want to know what we want, guys? You want to know what the best Father's Day gift is? Just leave us the fuck alone. Give us one goddamn day where I don't have to listen to shit. I don't have to do shit. I can go get drunk. I can watch football. I can go fishing, and I'm not going to get bitched at. I'm not going to hear daddy. I'm not going to have to. Just leave me alone. That's a Father's Day gift for every father out there. That takes thought. That takes more. I don't want to wake up to screaming and yelling and bitching and all the shit that I have to do, and I get a fucking tie that I'm not even going to fucking wear, okay? All right? Or I drink for once and have a nice day with my buddies going fishing, and it's all bitching. It's like, and you know what's funny? They won't even bitch at you during Father's Day. They'll sit there and look at their watch until it hits 12 midnight, and then it's just, you know what I find funny? It's like, what the fuck? Speaking of which, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little something right here. You want to know the worst thing about being married to a person from another country, okay? Is that they don't have the same verbal cues that people in your country do, right? Like if I was dating or married to an American woman, I would know when I hear the, okay, fine, or yeah, whatever, or you know what I find funny? Like, these are red flags. This is like I'm in some shit. Like, I am fucked, right? Like, this is not gonna go well. Abort. Is the window open? I need to go. But when you marry somebody or date somebody from another country, it's totally different. You're in the dark. You have no idea what their culture is of like, hey, you fucked up. Like,
by the time you marry him, you should. By the time you marry him, you should pick up on those cues, man.
No. Shit changes. Shit evolves, okay? Listen, let me tell you something. It evolves, okay? Everything evolves. When you have a kid, all of a sudden things that didn't bother somebody before are now a big deal, and you're not ready for it, okay? All right? You're not ready for it.
That is Stocky's Random Rant. Personally, I can't speak for any of that. I've never had a Father's Day where I've been a father, so you have. So I just got to trust and believe. Stocky, I just got to trust and believe that what you say is the way. If you're a father, I hope your Father's Day doesn't go the way Stocky described it. But
you don't want to know what my birthday present was this year?
Maybe a tie, maybe a pair of socks.
No, the handheld chainsaw.
Oh, God. Stocky on Red, the final segment.
I'm actually serious. That was my birthday gift this year.
Listen, I believe you. Stocky on Red, our final segment. Stocky, this is a segment where, typically speaking, it's been some low stakes conversations that we've revealed. However, the past couple have been pretty intense. They've been pretty, deep moments.
We're getting into the year where I had a lot of tragedies. So,
right.
I'm trying to avoid those.
Perhaps you should just kind of pre-filter and kind of fly by those a little bit. Give us those moments where it's like you fucked up and you were supposed to meet someone for dinner and you just forgot to text them back or something that you weren't coming. Guys, this is a segment called Stocky on Red. Stocky has about 500 missed texts dating back to what is now 2017, I believe, maybe 2018.
We're in 2018 now.
2018. He has 500 missed texts. That's in addition to his about, 6,000 missed emails and, all these different missed calls and voicemail.
It's not that bad. Here you go. This is it's not that bad.
Oh my God. What do you mean it's not that bad? Is that 6 digits? That's 100. Okay, so I said 6,000 missed emails. That says 148,000 missed emails. 590 missed texts.
Because I cut off my AOL one, so it's so there's about 60,000 that I don't have to worry about now.
Yeah, because I'm sure you're staying up at night and worried about the other. What is it? 88,000. I'm sure okay. that's what's keeping you up at night. I'm down to
590 missed messages and 360 missed calls.
Bro, there are people that see that and just wig out.
There's only 131 app upgrades. Discord, I have 116 unread DMs and a couple things on the financial side for me. So other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
Give us the oldest text message. Keep the stakes low if you can. Pre-select for it.
All right. This is from June 20th, 2018. Somebody sent me a GIF of the devil pulling out somebody from a, I guess, the morgue, and it's one of the Jonas Brothers saying, "What took you so long?" I wrote, "Who is this?" And they said, "Question, I know it's last minute, but how is your availability at the hotel I worked at the time?" I said, "I have to check when I get in." And then they said, "Can you please let me know what rate you can get me? I may want to stop by." A month later, they said, "Miss you, dude."
That was on my birthday. I turned 28 that day.
August 2nd.
I turned 28 that day. Guys, thank you all for being here. This was the Stock Guy and Alex Show, episode 23.
Did I write back, "I miss you too"? It's been 4 years.
This is episode 23 of the Stock Guy and Alex Show, the podcast covering topics around the world, business, news, money, markets, and sports. Guys, when people talk about it, Stocky and I talk about it. Show can be watched, listened, and viewed on YouTube and Spotify. Guys, follow the show on all the socials. Guys, we'll get you on out of here. Enjoy the rest of your week. And enjoy a Mother's Day. Like I said, get something for your mom, get something for your wife, get something for your, baby mama, whatever. Guys, acknowledge the mothers in your life. And guys, we will see you next week. Saki, final words?
I'm gonna finish the birdhouse this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to
stay safe. Wear some gloves.
Bye.
Love.